You're listening to Answering the Call, the official podcast of the 12th Man Foundation. Our show provides listeners with an insider perspective of Texas A&M athletics and its greatest supporters. This podcast will bring you exclusive interviews with coaches, athletes, donors, and the dedicated staff of Aggie Athletics and the 12th Man Foundation. You ready? Let's dive into today's episode. Welcome back to another episode of Answering the Call, the official podcast of the 12th Man Foundation. I'm your host, Ivy Robinson, and today I'm sitting in studio with Texas A&M Director of Swimming and Diving, Blaire Anderson. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast, Coach Anderson.
Pleasure to be here. Excited to spend some time with you guys today.
Yeah, I've just got to know, what have you enjoyed about College Station so far in Aggieland, the community here?
All of it. It's been really special being part of this community, and I feel such a warm sense of hospitality from everyone that I've met. My husband, my son, we all feel very much a part of this family, and it's been an easy transition for us.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about that transition. Tell us about your career path. I know you've coached at several universities prior to your time at Texas A&M. So walk us through that for our listeners. Paint the picture about your background, your career path, and how you got into coaching swimming and diving.
Absolutely. So I started coaching at a pretty young age. Right out of college, I went into public relations, which was my educational background. Found that industry and world wasn't my fit, and almost stumbled into coaching. However, I had known for a very long time that it was a career that I would want. And so I started at Brenau University in 2010, which is a small NAI school. There's Division 1, 2, and 3 for NCAA, and then there's a separate body of athletes that are made up of the NAI, which is mostly private universities. And so from there, I was at Brenau for 5 years as a head coach, and that was at age 24. So it was very challenging.
Wow.
And just kind of like trial by fire, sink or swim. And then from there, I went to coach at Dartmouth College. And then from there, Indiana, most recently at Virginia for the past 7 years, and then here since May.
That's awesome. I want to come back to Virginia because I know you had a lot of success at Virginia, but I want to take it back even a little further. Where are you from? Where did you grow up?
I'm originally from Georgia. So I was born in Atlanta, raised about 50 miles north in a town called Gainesville. My entire family is there still. My parents, my 2 older sisters, and then also my extended family is either in Athens, Georgia, or in Atlanta.
So going back to Virginia, you helped lead the women's program there, I believe, to several national championships. So tell us about that and what that experience was like.
Yeah, so I started working at Virginia in 2017 with a brand new coaching staff led by Todd DeSorbo. And we were really excited about the potential of the program. We knew that there was potential to win a national championship. So the first couple of years were truly foundational years. A lot of our athletes were the ones that kind of took those steps that we needed to take in order to put us in contention for national championships. And it was exhilarating. It was also really challenging. Anytime you come into a team and you say, "Hey, we want to win a national championship," it's more than words. It's the actions, it's the attitude, it's the culture that you're building. And doing that there, we had our first shot at winning a national title in 2020, but COVID canceled NCAA's. So it was almost the next year, everybody was coming back with a vengeance and truly wanting to capitalize on that opportunity. And once that ball started rolling, it just kind of continued to build that momentum. So won in 21, 22, 23, and most recently in 2024. And it never gets old jumping in a pool. But I'll be honest, like, one of the most exciting things for me is reflecting on those early years of development and, how much collaboration we had and the sense of newness, finding ways to get better. And that for me is, when I think about what motivates me, one of my questions is how can I make this better? How can I make this great? But it's also working with our student athletes. So it's not just about me. It's obviously about them too. It's what can we be doing to help you become better or to help you step into that next level. And so when I think back on my time at Virginia, I have nothing but great thoughts.
Love what you said there, how your mission is to come in and make something even better, right? Take it to the next level. You're inheriting a program that was very successful, both the men's and women's programs led by Jay Holmes and Steve Boltman. What is your vision for the programs going forward? And as the very first director of Texas A&M Swim and Dive, it's a brand new position for those who are listening and do not know. But talk about your vision and where you see the program as a whole headed.
So I think because this is in a sense, it's a new team. It's been a split program in the past, and we've come together, we're combined. And for that reason, we can build a brand new vision together, right? So no longer is it just about the women doing something or the men doing something. It's what can we do together? I truly do believe that that is more powerful when you're walking with one another towards a common goal. So, if I'm thinking big, I would love to bring Texas A&M its first national championship. That was one of the reasons that I wanted to come here, was so that I could help this program contend for that opportunity to showcase everything that we have here. That has been built before I even set foot here in Aggieland. Steve Boltman and Jay Holmes are terrific leaders, very well respected, have had wonderful success, and great men as well. And so, for me, I also just want to honor that. I want to continue to elevate that and grow that. By no means are we building from scratch. We have such a wonderful foundation. So that's a big piece of it, is just knowing what we have, looking at what it takes to elevate. And so that's part of that vision. I think something else that Texas A&M Swimming and Diving has done is continue to put an emphasis on international success. We've had a lot of people in the Olympics, not just from the US, but other countries. And so that is also a part of our vision, is continuing to achieve at that level as well. And then obviously, if you're taking care of that vision from an international perspective and an NCAA level, then SEC's is more or less going to take care of itself. And then those dual meets and all the fun that happens throughout the year, that process part will also take care of itself.
I want to come back to that international level as well, because I have some questions about the Olympics. But Blaire, going back to you and who you are as a person outside of coaching, outside of swimming and dive, who is Blaire Anderson? How would you describe yourself, and what do you enjoy doing in your free time?
That's such a hard question because so much of my life is my team and my athletes, and I'm an all-in individual, and so sometimes it's really hard to separate. But I think when I take that coach hat off, I'm just a mom and a wife and a friend and a sibling and all of those things. And I enjoy being with my family. I love a low-key day where I do nothing but play with my son on the floor, and he's obsessed with trucks right now, and so I'm obsessed with trucks right now. I like to be active, whether that's working out, or I've done triathlons in the past, and maybe that's something that I'll pick back up later, but for now a lot of my time is spent
Yeah.
telling other people what to do. I mean, I'm pretty easygoing. I love to watch a good football game.
Do you have any favorite tradition you've experienced so far here?
Yes, so the yell leaders is something that I've never seen before. And we actually just recently had a recruiting trip, and two of the Yale leaders met us at one of our tour stops and gave us some background on their roles and just kind of Yale leaders in general. And then to actually have them teach us a yell was pretty special. Like that one-on-one opportunity,
Right.
it was so surreal. And then to go to the game, see them out on the field, I was like, hey, that's that person. And like the buy-in that they get from the crowd, that was something I've never done before. And I'm just like almost flabbergasted. I'm like, it's just so cool. Like, how do you get to be a yell leader? And like, I want to know, the more I learn about these traditions, I'm like, I want to know like where it originated, because like there's so many traditions. And if you were to ask me all of them, I wouldn't know them all. I'm slowly learning.
Right.
And so, yeah, I think that's one
Been
that
one of
I've
your
really
favorites.
enjoyed. Yeah.
Yeah. Talking about the support of our fan base and just Texas A&M, I mean, we have a very supportive fan base. What would be your encouragement to those listening to come out and support our men's and women's swimming and diving programs?
I hope that people will come out and watch and to support us. I don't think we make the journey to contending for national championships alone. it takes a village. To those that have never been to a swim meet, I would say, come on, come see a swim meet here, see what it's like. It's exciting for our athletes to see people in the stands.
What can they expect? For somebody who hasn't been to a swim meet, what would you kind of say they should be prepared for?
Yeah, I mean, be prepared for some fast swimming. Good energy coming from our team from the sides. The thing to me that, if I try and take myself out of the coaching context and if I was an observer, is like you can see the passion that people have for their sport and how much it means to them. The 20 hours that they put in a week just to get that moment of being able to swim at a high level for less than 50 seconds. It's a lot of work for a little bit of payoff. So, like, when other people can be there to see them kind of showcase their talents, I think is really exciting for them. So, lots of smiles, lots of fun, lots of high energy is hopefully what people would see.
What do you think is a common, maybe misconception about the sport of swim and dive in general, or maybe a unique fact that a lot of people don't know about the athletes, maybe their schedule or how they prepare for their meets?
Yeah, I think one thing that some people may not know is how long our days are. Some athletes, I can't say this broadly across all sports, but the early wake up time is a little bit later. Swimmers typically are up early and then they go off and they're full-time students, and then they're coming in and they're doing rehab or they're doing additional exercises or they're lifting weights or dryland, and then they're swimming again. And it's a lot of time and effort, as are with all other sports, but it's a year-round sport too. It's not a, hey, we're just September to NCAA's at the end of March. It's like, oh, wait, as soon as that's done, we're preparing for long course season, which runs from April all the way through August. And so there's really no true break in their schedule. And so if somebody's coming here and is like, I want to be the best collegiately as well as on the international stage, which is long course, you don't really get a break. And so it's a grind. So I don't think people see that. I don't know if people know how year round the sport truly is. So I guess that's something that I would bring forward and say that
Mm-hmm.
maybe people don't.
Yeah, you just taught me something. I was
Yeah.
not aware of how in depth that is. And it obviously, like, the length of the season and the competition too. So very interesting. Let's talk about recruiting with swimming and dive. What is that like? Tell us about that world and how has it been in terms of recruiting here at Texas A&M?
Yeah, recruiting here to Texas A&M is like a dream. The facilities are the best, period. And I feel so grateful to have these facilities to show off. I feel like a recruit, kind of, going into the different buildings like the Sin Center. It's brand new, and walking in there and being like, wow, you get to eat all your meals here. That's pretty incredible. Even just taking recruits over here to the football stadium or to Pop Pavilion to see the new build out of our locker rooms and offices and team room and nutrition center. It's just so recruiting here is like a dream, sells itself. And so, really, truly, our job is just to show recruits, one, that they can have the best facilities here, have the best academic support here, receive a wonderful degree, and then also have the best athletic opportunity here. And then the last thing I hope that they understand is we're trying to build something really special here. Texas A&M has not won a swimming and diving national championship. It's not been done yet. So there's only one time to be the first. If recruits want to jump on board with that, then let's do it. We need you to help us get there. And when we do, you will be the first in history and your name will go on the wall. And that's something pretty special that not many universities can say.
How could you listen to what Coach Anderson just said and not want to come and compete here for the maroon and white? And I'm glad you brought up facilities because there's so many components and resources here at Texas A&M that our student athletes get to utilize. And like you said, the Ann and Henry B. Hank Pop Pavilion, it's home for both the men's and women's swim and dive programs. And for those who are listening and may not know, Pop Pavilion adjoins the Student Rec Center on campus here at Texas A&M. But Blaire, is there anything specific about that facility that just really impressed you?
So I find when I think about the whole facility and that build out, I think how much ease it provides to our student athletes, meaning Their locker room is right off the pool deck. Then they've got their nutrition center right between their locker rooms, which has fresh food for them to eat, snacks to grab, coffee. I mean, you name it, they can get out of practice, grab some snacks and go, and then our athletic training room is right off the pool deck and attached there as well. And it's got probably the most incredible recovery room I've ever seen. It's got a hot tub and a cold tub in its own separate room. And then right next to it is a recovery zone with massage chairs, Normatec legs, stretch machines. I mean, I tell them, I'm like, you're spoiled in the best way possible. Right. It's a really cool thing to be a swimmer and diver here at Texas A&M. So that facility to me provides a lot of ease for our student athletes. It's a one-stop shop. And as coaches, for us to have all of our offices there together, to have a conference room where we can go and have staff meetings, or we can have wellness meetings with our resources, with our nutritionists and sports psychologists, all of those people. It's just comforting and really just easy. And so, yeah, I can just brag about it all day. I've never had something like this before. The space is one of a kind. And even just their locker rooms. I don't really go in their locker rooms very often, but I've taken a pass through when they're not there, and it's incredible. Simply incredible.
Thank you for speaking to that. We are so grateful for donors and supporters of Texas A&M Athletics who help fund resources and facilities like this for our student athletes. The support is just truly remarkable, and it sets our athletes up for ultimate success. Can you tell us more about your coaching staff and the impact that they're already making on the program? And when you came in as director, how you set the tone for, hey, this is a new era of Texas A&M Swim and Dive, a holistic approach. Like you said, we are approaching success and chasing after success together now, both men's and women's programs. So tell us about that a little bit.
I like how you just put that. I might steal that. That was a good way of talking about chasing success together. And, when they brought me on as director, for me, it felt extremely incredible to be given that sense of leadership and trust from Trev and the executive team and the university here. And so for me, putting together a staff of people that I trusted, people that bought into the vision that I had for the team, for the program, and people that I knew had experience at a really high level was very important to me. So, as a coach, as you go through your years, you kind of accumulate relationships across the country, and, even people that you've worked with as well. And you start to kind of formulate these what if lists, which is like, if you get a job, who would those people be that you want to work with? And so when it came time for me, I already knew. Right. So Wes Foltz is our associate head coach, and Wes and I worked together at UVA from 2017 to 2022. He won 2 national championships with us. We had a really great relationship. He's an excellent coach, wonderful communicator. Everybody loves Wes. He's that guy that you're going to, joke around with and cut up with on the pool deck, but he's so good at coaching. I just think he's a wonderful developer of talent. He's remarkable in that way. And Allison Sweeney, she was actually a former student athlete here, swam for Steve Boltman. She has had experience at a lot of different places. She was at Auburn. She was at UNC Chapel Hill. She's been a head coach at Georgia Southern University. She brings a wealth of knowledge with her. But more importantly than that, Allison and I have been friends for 6 or 7 years prior to now. So, we know each other well as friends, and it's been cool to transition that into a working relationship as well. She is so scientific minded. She knows the biomechanics, of things. And I'm over here leading with intuition and heart, and she's got the science. And I'm like, this is perfect. So that was a great piece of chemistry to add in to the equation. Duncan Sherrard, he was most recently at South Carolina and was also at Auburn, UNC Chapel Hill, and has also been a head coach when he was at Florida Southern, when he was kind of kicking off his coaching career. So he also has that experience of leading a program. And if you can't tell, there's a little bit of a theme here. For me, it's about putting people around this program that have been there and done it. And they, for me, are the best sounding board possible. And, I hope that they feel that I'm giving them responsibilities that kind of equal their history with the sport, and that they can lend their background and expertise to this situation, to this team, to this program. Jamie Liu, he's an assistant coach as well, came from Indiana. Both Jamie and I worked at Indiana, so not at the same time. However, we were both a part of that program. Learned a lot from that program in terms of large team format, combined program, and also just working with a top 5, top 10 program, in general, understanding what that operation looks like. He's also super, super passionate about coaching. Like this guy on the pool deck, he can get anybody excited to swim. It's pretty cool. And I'm almost like, maybe I'll go jump in. No, I'm just kidding. I won't do that. He's super enthusiastic. He also is kind of the lead point on our recruiting and official visits and things. So he's a creative mind. He's a go-getter, and I think he and his fiance just love it here too. Kind of the last piece of our puzzle was our director of ops, and that's Hannah Potter. Hannah Potter had also worked at Virginia before. She had been a director of ops for several other sports and just kind of lent a hand with swimming here and there. But she was most recently working with the Nationals in DC. And so when this position came open, I was like, she can juggle a lot of tasks. She's really good at this. She might not know everything about swimming, but she's learning. And the best part is like she is just so organized. Like the number of calendars in her office, there's at least 3. She keeps us on track to do things
Yes.
in a timely manner.
That sounds like an incredible staff
Yeah.
that you've put together, and how exciting. And I mean, going back, I guess wasn't hard to get them down here, I guess. Like, and when you go back to Texas A&M and just the facilities and the environment and the community here.
It wasn't a hard sell, and one of the big things that I told them in this process was like, this is a family decision. For me and my husband and our son, it was a family decision to come to A&M to be here. And so I was like, I want this program to be our family, and I want you to be my family. And they're all very family oriented individuals. And so that to me is kind of the thread that, kind of weaves us all together, is that family piece. So I don't think it was that hard of a sell. I mean, I think that they were all really excited for the opportunity. It's a great chemistry that we have, and I'm excited to see where it goes.
Earlier, you had mentioned, I'm going to go back to the international scale of competition and preparing athletes for the Olympics, because I know a lot of swim and dive athletes, that is their goal. Tell us about your approach preparing your athletes for both SEC and competing for potentially the U.S. or getting to the point where they're at the U.S. Olympic team trials.
So if we have an athlete, say, in the program right now, and their goal is to make the Olympics in 2028, we do a little bit of large picture focus and then smaller picture focus. Whereas like we're looking at the quad in terms of what over the next 4 years are kind of our checkpoints, and work backwards from trials to that third year, to that second year, to that first year. So what international teams can we qualify for along the way that set us up for success in the U.S. trials to make that team? And then by focusing on those pieces, I think the level of training and focus and dedication that you have to your sport helps you take care of the NCAA and SEC championships. For me, it's keeping long course training integrated in throughout the collegiate season, because NCAAs and SECs is competed short course yards, but Olympic trials and the Olympics is long course meters. So, for me, it's keeping about 50% of our practices in a normally weekly training cycle as long course, so that we can prepare for those checkpoints along the way. We've got US Open in December this year. We've got World Championship trials next June, and then World Championships in Singapore next summer. So like, even though the Olympics already ended, we're already preparing for the next thing. We're looking at the quad, we're planning backwards. And then by doing that, we're hopefully providing them checkpoints and confidence pieces along the way to help them prepare for those trials, whether it's US or another country. Now, that is where it gets a little bit chaotic, is because other countries host their trials meets at different points in the year. It's not completely aligned with the US schedule. So we have to be adaptable as coaches, because you may finish competing at NCAA championships and 2 weeks later you're off to trials for your country trying to make a world championship roster. So, what does that resting process like for NCAAs, and then how do you figure out how to transition that over? So it's, there's no perfect way to do it. There's a lot of science behind it, a lot of intuition behind it, a lot of collaboration with the athlete. But I think at the end of the day, if you're building those strong communicative relationships with your athletes and you're building their confidence, they can do anything. They
Mhm.
truly can.
You joined this program back in May of 2024. What makes you excited about the talent that we have here on our teams right now at Texas A&M?
I think I'm more excited about who they are. For me, I'm trying to see them as a whole person,
Mhm.
right? Not just an athlete. So
Mhm.
their talent is a part of who they are, but them as people, their personality, their energy, their interests, all of those things come into play for me. And, I don't know, maybe I was influenced by Ted Lasso, but coaching the person rather than the athlete to me really kind of struck a nerve because that's what I love about what I do is I get to build these relationships. And that's what I'm doing right now. We haven't been here for that long, but we are slowly building relationships with these student athletes and letting them know how interested we are in them. And it's not just a times thing. It's not just a talent level thing. It's if we pour ourselves into these kids, how much more are they truly capable of?
Mhm. Love what you said there, building the person and not just the athlete. And I think oftentimes when you go to sporting event, college sporting events, whatever it may be, a lot of fans forget that they are students too. They're not just athletes, they are students with lives who, have difficulties, have challenges, have personal lives, things they're dealing with. And so it's easy to forget that they have a lot of pressure that they're dealing with at times.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so it's so key and so crucial to have influential people, good coaches, good support staff, whether it's sports medicine, mental health, to come in alongside them and help them navigate
Hmm.
the demands of being both a student and an athlete.
Absolutely. I mean, after a while in coaching, you can start to pick out if somebody's having a hard day. It might not be even related to what you're doing in practice, it could be related to something else completely. We as coaches need to be keeping our minds open, keeping our eyes open because we are the caretakers of these student athletes. So I want them to be just as happy personally as they are athletically. And so, that's where that whole person centered approach comes from.
Having that person centered approach and just your passion for coaching in general, where do you think that originated?
I guess part of it is as an athlete myself, I always was that kid that got the most spirited award. I was never got the kid that got the MVP. So I feel like I was blessed with the spirit and enthusiasm and love of the sport, but I don't think I was physically blessed with the talents that I get to coach, right? So I think that kind of vigor and excitement and just, wanting to help others comes from the fact that I couldn't do what they're capable of doing. So I want them to find their heart and find their talent and find out how they can use those two things together to get the results that they're looking for and get the experience that they're looking for. But yeah, my club coach growing up, Jim Young, he was my club coach from age 5 all the way through to my college years. And I remember being at a swim meet, standing on the pool deck, and it was at Brenau University, which is the first university that I coached at. And at the time, the university did not have a program. It had been cut. And he stood next to me because we swam there as a club team. That's where we practiced. And he said, "Wouldn't it be crazy if one day this university started its college team back up?" And I'm 14 and I'm like, "Oh, okay. Like that would be fun." And he goes, "Wouldn't it be crazy if you were the coach one day?" And I was like, because he knew I loved swimming, right? He knew I had a passion beyond just competing myself. Honestly, I think I was a better coach than like competitor. I'm pretty sure in some of those races I was like, "Nah, you can touch the wall first." No, I'm just kidding. But really, truly, I was more excited about like learning the splits of every person on my team and like figuring out are they going to go a best time, stuff like that. So he, in a way, was oddly predictive of the future.
Yeah, he
And
saw something in you. He did.
yeah, and so I appreciate that. And, I owe a lot to him because he really cultivated my love for this sport. Yeah, so a fun little story for you.
That's perfect. Thank you for sharing that. I love that story. Why are you passionate about swim and dive? I want to get to the heart. Like, who encouraged you to start swimming as an athlete yourself?
I started taking swim lessons when I was 3.5, and I didn't want to swim. I was rewarded anytime I went to a swim lesson with Snickers candy bars. And one day I got out of those swim lessons, and my cousin John was on the swim team in town. And my mom said, "Would you like to try swimming?" And I was like, "Oh, okay." Even though like I just learned how to swim, I just took like a fish to water. It was just a sport that I loved to do, and I loved being at practice with my friends, and I loved working hard. And so I don't know if it was any one thing that made me passionate about it. I think I just fell in love with
Mm-hmm.
the sport, the process of it, the social aspect of it. I fell in love with the whole picture,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it was where my best friends were. And so just through the years, it was a sport that I couldn't leave.
Mm-hmm. Like a sense of community
Yeah,
for you. Yeah.
community for sure, which is one of my core values. And so, for me, community is everything.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And community is, I feel like, the foundation of Texas A&M. That Aggie network, the camaraderie of the 12th man, it's just so evident and it's so contagious, right? Like you feel it when you get here.
Oh, I felt it the day that I got here for the first time. I went back to my husband and I was like, "Wow, I felt like I could belong to something."
Mm-hmm.
And, that community and that hospitality is what made the decision extremely easy for me.
Looking back on your career and reflecting on just the different positions you've had and now being here at Texas A&M as the director of swim and dive, what advice would you give your younger self?
I've thought about that question a lot. It's a hard one because I think what I'm really proud of is that I tried really hard and I learned a lot. I failed a lot. I succeeded a lot. I kind of learned through that process. But the biggest piece of advice I would probably give myself is to seek out relationships in that swimming community, find your network. Find the people that are going to mentor you and help you along the way. I have so many people that have helped me make good decisions and also given me great advice, through my years. And one of the most impactful groups that I'm a part of is a women's coaching summit. And it has about 12 or 14 women from across the country that are either head coaches, directors, or associate and assistant coaches at different universities. And we get together one time a year. We do a lot of learning together. We do a lot of sharing and also just a lot of career development as well as relational development. And so if I could tell my 24-year-old self when I first started coaching, what should I do? It would be get connected with other people in your field and know that you're not doing it alone, because early on you feel like you're doing everything by yourself. I didn't even know what an Olympic quad was when I first started out. And now I'm like, how could I have not known that? So there's just so many things if I look back I would do, but that's probably the biggest one. But what I would continue to tell anybody that's getting into coaching is if you have a passion, pursue it and be confident in it and know that you're going to take great steps, and you're also going to feel like times you're taking steps backwards, but keep moving forward. And this sport gives back as much as you give. And, for all the time that I've spent with these student athletes here and other universities, they give so much value to my life. And for that, I'm so appreciative.
What you said about encouraging young coaches or people who are wanting to get into coaching to pursue their passion, it reminds me of something that actually Coach Mike Elko said. We had him on this podcast as well. And he said something along the lines of, don't make decisions based on money, make decisions based on what you're passionate about, if possible. Because if you chase that passion, you're ultimately going to be so much more happier, and it's going to be that much more rewarding when you're truly enjoying what your soul and what your heart loves to do each and
Yes.
every day.
100%. When you see a kid reach one of their goals, it's a feeling that's in your soul, not in your wallet, right? More or less, it's an emotional attachment and feeling towards that. It's not necessarily logical, right? So for me, I've never played that piece into my decision making, and I know that coaching isn't the easiest road for people to take, but it's something that I love so much. I can't imagine my life without it.
Yeah, it just came back to me. I think he said, chase your passion, not your pocketbook, which I thought that was good. To wrap up today, Coach Anderson, what legacy do you hope to leave at Texas A&M and in the world of collegiate swimming and diving?
I think the legacy that I'm hoping to leave or to create is not just based on performances or statistics or championships, although I do truly want to win multiple national championships for Texas A&M. I think the legacy is truly like kind of going back to some of our earlier questions. It's that foundation that you've built that those championships stand on top of, right? It's the community, it's the well being of the individuals that you work with, it's the relationships. So the legacy that I hope to leave is one of integrity, one of passion, one of true care for this process and what is being built. And I don't even know if those words truly encompass everything I'm thinking of right now, but I don't expect the history books to have my name in them. I just hope that I make a small dent in what can be done here. This to me is just the ultimate opportunity to be given the keys to the best university in the country and get to have fun every day. That's a tough question. Maybe I'll have a better answer for you next time.
I think that was a great response.
But,
yes.
Yeah.
Awesome. Coach Blaire Anderson on Answering the Call podcast. Coach Anderson, thank you again so much for being here today and for your time.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for joining us on another episode of Answering the Call, the official podcast of the 12th Man Foundation. A special shout out to our incredible podcast producer, Megan Hoffman, and to 12th Man Productions for their generous use of this studio. We also extend our heartfelt gratitude to every donor and every season ticket holder for always answering the call through loyal support of Texas A&M athletics and our student athletes. We will be back soon with more content. Thanks, and gig 'em.